Determine the values of y for which y squared is greater than 1. So if you could remember the steps used in solving quadratic inequality, this is quadratic inequality. So we'll move every term that has the variable to one side. So y squared minus 1 is greater than 0. So this is difference of 2 squared. Y minus 1, y plus 1 must be greater than 0. Okay, this is when the main idea comes in. Remember, assuming we are solving this as a quadratic equation, we have two answers. And these are the only two answers that once you plug in this inequality or equation, we are talking about quadratic equation, it gives us 0. So meaning among all the numbers in the world, once you plug in the values that will give us each of them to be 0, the answer is 0. Meaning any other number is either less than, once you plug in, is less than 0 or greater than 0. So let's solve as if we are solving a quadratic equation to get the two numbers. So you notice that y, we have minus 1 and 1. So these are the two numbers that once you plug in here, it will give us 0. But we are asked which one is greater than 0, which are the ones that once you plug in, it gives us 0. With this, we now have boundary, because we have numbers less than the least, which is minus 1. We now have numbers between the two numbers and the numbers greater than the highest, that which is 1. Do you get the logic here? These two numbers we solve to get the two numbers that will give us 0. Any other number will give us either less than 0 or greater than 0. So we now use it to create boundary. We have 3 boundary now. The ones less than the least number between the two, that's which is minus 1. We have numbers less than minus 1, numbers between minus 1 and 1, numbers greater than 1. So we use it to test. That's the idea. So let's choose numbers less than minus 1. So which is minus 2. So if you plug in minus 2 here, minus 2 minus 1 is negative. Minus 2 plus 1 is negative again. So negative times negative is positive. But that's what we are asked for. So numbers, all the numbers less than minus 1 must satisfy this, because it's 0. So let's check numbers between 1 and minus 1 and 1, which is 0. If you put 0 here, 0, 0. So we have negative 1 times 1, which is negative. But what they ask us is positive. So numbers between minus 1 and 1 is not part of the solution. And finally, let's test numbers greater than 1. 2. 2 minus 1 positive. 2 plus 1 positive. Positive times positive is what? Positive, which is correct. So that's it. Generally, if you have anything of this form, once this boundary is satisfied, the one at the left hand side, the one at the right hand must satisfy. So it's either this and this is the answer, or only the numbers between. So my answers are numbers x less than minus 1 or x greater than 1. So it's either it has or it's a joint inequality. That's number between these. So once the middle fails, these two must satisfy. But if the middle satisfy, the two will fail. So our answer is this. So our answer is, okay, what we are using, we used y. So we use y. So y is less than minus 1 or y is greater. So our answer is C. So be careful, this quadratic inequality. So, okay, let's solve another question that relating to that. Again, we are asked solve x squared plus x minus c is less than 0. So again, we solve as if we are solving quadratic equation. Let's solve to get the two boundary, the number that we use to create the boundary. So you first solve as if you are solving quadratic equation. So this is x plus 3, x minus 2. So the two values are minus 3 and 2. So let's now use it to create boundary. So we have minus 3, 2. So let's test numbers less than minus 3. Minus 4. Minus 4 plus 3 is negative. Minus 4 minus 2 negative. So negative times negative is positive. Why? Let's test numbers between minus 3 and 2. 0, 0. So 0 here, 3. 3 times minus 2 is negative. Why? Numbers greater than 2. which is 3. Positive, positive. So what we are asked, what numbers less than 0. So our answer is the middle. So the answer is numbers between so this should be S. Our answer is D. Again, we solve as if we are solving product. So we first factor. So the numerator is difference of 2 square. Why the denominator is, what is happening? This should be y. Y minus 1. So we've done it, we factored the 2. And if you notice, they have common minus 1. So we have y plus 1 over y minus 2 is less than or equal to 0. So we now solve each of them, equate the numerator and the denominator to 0. So the first thing, we equate y plus 1 equal to 0, which implies y is minus 1. Why the second one, y minus 2 equal to 0? Y is 2. So these are the two numbers that we use to form the boundary. So our boundary is minus 1, 2. So let's check numbers less than minus 1, which is minus 2. So minus 2 here is minus 2 plus 1, negative. Minus 2 minus 2. So negative divided by negative is what? Positive. So this is positive. So let's check numbers between minus 1 and 2, 0. So positive divided by negative is negative. And finally, numbers greater than 2, which is 3. Positive, positive, which is positive. But we are asked numbers less than 0. So this off. So the answer is numbers between minus 1 and 2. So but you need to be careful here, because these are another tricky stuff. You notice that if, remember, it has a equality sign, but if y is 2, the denominator will be undefined. That's 2 minus 2 is 0. So we won't include 2 in the interval. So we wouldn't include this, but this is also. So this is the perfect answer. So don't make the, if you could see, this is B and this is D. Many students will take D. Our correct answer is B, because we don't include 2. Once 2 is here, it will be undefined. So our answer is